Hey, this is Macca.
Good morning, Macca. How are you? Peter Racer here, standing on the brand spanking new, to be opened in about an hour and a half's time, Kangaroo Point Green Bridge in Brisbane.
Tell us about it. Tell everybody about it.
It's part of the pedestrianisation of the Brisbane River. There was a smaller green bridge opened down at the Breakfast Creek about 8 months ago. And I think currently there's about 70,000 people a month are using that, and their projections were 30,000. So they're very, very...
Wow.
And this one, going from Kangaroo Point into, close to Alice Street, which is close to Eagle Street, in Brisbane, I just think that it's going to be... I don't know what the projections are, but it'll be well exceeded, I suspect. It's a beautiful ambient view. It's well lit at night time. They've had the lights working for ages now. It's got a restaurant on it, and it's really in a very historic spot of Brisbane. There's St Mary's Church overlooks it, and St Mary's is quite famous because that was the first ship-to-shore radio signal that was sent from the Brisbane River up to a receiving station at St Mary's Church. And on the other side is the City Botanical Gardens. And in 1896 or thereabouts, that's where the Queensland Navy ended up beached during one of the floods. And a few weeks later, they were floated off during another flood. So it's a very historic spot, and it's just an incredible piece of infrastructure. It's really quite amazing. But $235 odd million, of which $60 million is federal government funding. So, yes, you'd expect a bit of bang for your buck, wouldn't you?
You would, mate. For people who don't live in Brisbane and don't know Brisbane that well, but they sort of know it, whereabouts is it, say, compared to the Story Bridge?
It is a hop, skip and a jump away from the Story Bridge. Basically 750 metres on the Kangaroo Point end. And the landing plaza is actually lands underneath the entrance to the Story Bridge. So very close to the Story Bridge, and it will give an exceptional view to the now very quite well lit Story Bridge, but which does have certain maintenance issues that the current Lord Mayor is starting to agitate about, because it's going to cost about $1 billion to fix the rust on the Story Bridge.
Yeah, and look, I think how many crossings of the Brisbane River are there? Do you know?
Now that I'm not an expert on. Well, I do know that anyone who drives a car says there's not enough, and anyone who rides a cycle says there are too many car bridges and not enough cycle bridges. So I think there's about 5 cycle bridges, and then there's another what they call green bridges, which there are 4 of, I think. There's the Chanel Bridge, which goes into the University of Queensland, which is for buses only. And then you've got the,
there's lots of crossings, Peter, isn't there? There's lots of crossings of all sorts on the Brisbane River.
What the really interesting thing is, from someone who has lived until recently in Brisbane, is that every time they open up one of these pedestrian cycle-friendly bridges, the joggers, cyclists, speed walkers, strollers, they just seem to multiply exponentially in comparison to, the one extra bridge that's gone on. So the general population really appreciates them. And I think with the Commonwealth, the Olympic Games on the horizon, that this bridge in particular with its restaurant is really going to be quite an amazing tourist attraction, and hoping will give heart to the powers that be and the money men in the state government to help fund the next one, which goes from West End to Toowong, which will also be another really great enabler for tourism and just general fitness. Now, as I said, there's quite incredible that no one at the moment is allowed on the bridge because the Lord Mayor hasn't actually officially opened it. He's sort of standing there with scissors in hand.
It's like maybe like De Groot opening the Harbour Bridge in Sydney when he charged through before the official.
I think these days it's probably someone on an electric push bike or an electric
an e-bike, yeah.
Zip up and slash it with a cattle prod or something, all green, of course, all powered by the sun and the wind.
So, Pete, what's your story? How come you know so much about these? And you said you don't live in Brisbane anymore, but obviously you're pretty connected.
Well, yeah, it's sort of a long, boring story. I won't bore you with it.
No, don't bore us, but just, entertain us, Pete.
I've spoken to you a couple of times over the years because a friend of mine, Hugh Lunn, was instrumental in ensuring that the tennis history of Brisbane has been recorded by player names and naming rebound walls. And I also convinced Stefan, the hairdresser, who's quite famous up here, but probably not known outside of Brisbane, to donate the famous Stefan racket, which was a 7 metre long steel racket made very exactly. And it's a really funny story because Stefan is meeting with the then Lord Mayor, Graham Quirk, trying to convince him to accept the tennis racket back. And he says to Graham at the time, this racket's been made so accurately that you could just pick it up and use it. We both sort of looked at each other thinking, how big you got to be to pick up a 7 metre bloody steel?
Exactly.
I've had a passion for Brisbane for a long time, and it's really just great to see these.
And how is Brisbane doing? I mean, I can look at my city, and it takes me now another half an hour to get to work because there's so much traffic here. And I assume I've been to Melbourne recently, and I've been to Brisbane, but I haven't travelled around the city. I assume that Brisbane's got the same problems that the other big cities have.
All tending in the same direction, all desperately needing investment in public transport, which is the reason why my dear mate Graham Quirk fought so hard to get the Olympics, because it is meant for Brisbane to be an enabler. And it's just a great shame that the then Premier Palaszczuk wasn't sort of a bit more honest and open and accountable in relation to the state of the Gabba, because they proposed that it be used as the centrepiece stadium, and it was a very, very hairy wombat, and
hairy wombat
wasn't going to fit the purpose, and it's just caused no end of drama for all state governments since that little bit of
Now, Pete, apparently there's a cricket match on, and what does the weather look like up there today?
Well, it's not too bad yesterday, but I'm told that they've been issued with goggles, swim fins.
Oh, well, that doesn't sound good. But anyway, thanks for your call, Pete. Nice to talk to you.
And you have a great Christmas, and, a great Christmas to all the listeners, and a very happy New Year. And next year is the 80th anniversary of the ending of World War II, and it's a major milestone year next year.
Well,
thanks.
That's a pleasure, Pete. Nice to talk to you.
Toodaloo.
Toodaloo.
So here we are, 15th of December. I was interviewed on radio about the new bridge, and that links then back to this wonderful legacy asset of Expo 88 called Plant, formed by Robert Juniper, a Western Australian artist in the vein, but also a sculptor. And the new bridge, as you're going to see, is bringing a lot of people, an incredible amount of people, to this neck of the woods, and that is all for the good of the legacy of Expo 88.